Wedging clay is an important first step whenever you begin to make a vessel. Wedging creates a consistent and homogeneous material and drives out air pockets from the clay that can cause work to explode during the firing process. Though it looks simple, wedging is a skill that takes time to learn, so be patient with yourself. When the clay arrives at an ideal consistency, I'll prep the larger piece of clay to create smaller pieces for each individual vessel I want to make. This is an efficient way to prep enough material to create multiple projects at the same time. Before you begin, always make sure that your wheel is properly put together. The wheel contains a plastic splash pan to contain all of the water from the throwing process. The splash pan joins by the two buttons located on the bottom section of the larger piece. There's also a plastic tab that will slide underneath a metal plate underneath the wheel. You're going to want to slide the splash pan underneath that metal plate and secure it really snug. The next step is to push the smaller piece underneath the two buttons and secure it with the tabs. Be sure to inspect the splash pan to make sure there are no gaps and make sure that it's secure to the wheel. The next step is to make sure the power is on. You can tell by the green light. There's also a toggle switch. If you're right-handed, make sure it's in the forward position, and if you're left-handed, you want to go in reverse. You control the wheel speed with the foot pedal, and you can see it's pressure sensitive. The farther you push it down, the faster it goes. Make sure the pedal is placed on the proper side. If you're right-handed, you want to put the pedal on the right side and use your right foot. If you're left-handed, you want to use your left foot. The potter's wheel is a tool that has been developed in just about every culture all around the world, and it's been used for centuries, if not millennia, in order to make clay vessels quickly and easily and symmetrically. The concept of the potter's wheel is to use centrifugal force to allow a potter to guide the material into position and to create different shapes and different types of vessels. It's important to understand that you need to develop a relationship with the wheel and the clay. You need to develop a relationship with the speed of the wheel and how your hands are manipulating it into shape. It's more of a partnership, and you're guiding it into position. That's a really important concept to understand as you begin to learn how to use the potter's wheel. There are many skills that you're going to need to develop in order to use the potter's wheel effectively. This takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of practice, and a lot of perseverance. You need to make sure that you give yourself plenty of time to learn and to be patient with yourself. This first video is going to focus on the initial steps of the throwing process, which is centering our clay and opening up a floor. There are many different strategies in centering clay, and I'm just going to show you one or two. I'm going to show you the way that I throw, but I want to encourage you that after you develop specific skills, that you take this opportunity to develop your own style. The potter's wheel becomes a very personal experience, especially when you start creating the forms that you're interested in and gaining more control over the process. However, in order to get to that particular point in your ability, I will ask that you follow some of my processes in order to obtain proper technique, which will translate into the freedom of expression on the wheel. First, I'm going to focus on how to cone your clay, and then how to mound it over. This process will help you center the clay into a consistent shape so that we can open the floor. Before you begin, you want to make sure that your wheel is clean and it has just a little bit of moisture. That will help the clay stick to the center of the wheel head. You want to make sure that your clay is really secure before beginning to throw. You also need to use water to reduce friction between your hands and the clay. As you gain more experience with the throwing process, you'll understand when to add water and when you know that you have enough. Next, you want to make sure that you're up against the wheel and that you stabilize your body by putting your elbows on your thighs. This will help transfer stability into the material so that you can drive the clay into position. The next part of the process is to cone the clay. This is achieved by using a fast wheel speed and applying opposing forces between the palms of your hands.
What we need to do is, if you think of a clock, all right, we need to make sure that we're applying opposing forces, so on opposite ends. So what you want to do is you want to try and position your hands in a way to kind of push the material from like 11 o'clock to 5 o'clock, okay? Or maybe 12 o'clock to 6 o'clock, depending on how you're comfortable with your body position. Your body position is going to be really, really important for you to transfer the stability of your body into the clay. All right. The other thing that I want to show you is that you want to be using like this part of your palm and this part of your palm. Okay. And what I want to do is I kind of want to pin my elbow closer to my body and kind of push. All right. And then as the wheel is spinning, all right, that will slowly push all of the clay kind of up into this direction. All right. Once you cone it up, then excuse me, you want to mound it over. So basically, again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have these opposing forces, kind of one from the top, so that I'm going to push it down, and then as this is mushrooms over, it's going to create like a mushroom top, and it's going to kind of push over itself. Then I want to compress it with these fingers, kind of as one tool here, into position. So as I push down, I'm going to also push inward, and that will kind of position the material. Your hands will guide it into position. The wheel actually will move the clay for you. Okay, so that's another concept that you're going to need to begin to understand. All right, so here we go. So you can see here, now my hands are open, all right, and that's just to show you kind of what is occurring here. I'm using lots of water, and you can see I'm approaching it from the top, all right, and I'm kind of coming in it, approaching it from an angle too, all right. And what that will do is it will create downforce, but then the angle will push the clay around and create this like little mushroom, all right. And so as that comes down into position, then now what I'm going to do is compress the other material with my fingers. All right, see, there we go, and then, and then I just kind of wait and hold. And that's the other thing. I don't want to continue to push down through. That will flatten it like a pancake, okay? What you want to do is, once you get it to start moving and get it into the position that you want, you kind of just hold your hands there into that position so that all of the material can arrive in the space that you're providing by your hands, okay? This is the type of shape that you're going to want to see on your wheel. This is our mound. Okay, so this is kind of like the first position to set up for how we're going to throw on the wheel. All right. The next step then would be to find the center of the wheel, because now what we want to do is open that up. And so what I can do, and you can see how my hands are together, my elbows are always down. Okay, my hands are together, and that's something too that you're really going to need to work on is when your hands are separate, they can kind of get pushed around and wobble. All right, you always want to have some sort of sense of touch between your hands. This is always much stronger. It's kind of like a tripod, right? And then with that stability, you can transfer your body weight, your shoulders, the whole way down through into your fingers. Okay, so that's something that you're going to really need to get used to is finding some comfortable way of like holding both of your hands or resting your hands. Sometimes just the sense of touch of your thumb is enough to stabilize your entire body. All right, so what I want to do now is kind of open up this floor, and the way that I can do that is I'm going to find the center, and I can use my finger here, and I can make like a little circle there, and as I slowly work in to the center, that circle becomes a point, all right? And that's going to mark where my center is. When you become more accustomed to this, you'll be able to find center right away, but this is just a process visually that can help you arrive to center. Now what I want to do is get down and push through the clay, but I don't want to push too hard, right? It's the wheel that moves the clay, so I have to find that relationship with the speed of wheel and how the clay is being displaced. All right, so I'm also at a high rate of speed, and I'm just going to kind of push through. All right, so I've arrived where I have about that much of a floor left. You can use your needle tool. I'm going to have more videos about that. This is just kind of like intro information. But somewhere right around like 1/4 of an inch or so is enough material to leave for the floor. All right, you always need to leave a floor that keeps stability with the cylinder, but it's also the bottom of the vessel of whatever it is that we're making. So, all right, now the next part is we want to open the floor, okay? And this is a technique that was coined the claw by my teacher. And basically what you're going to do is you're going to use your power hand, your right hand if you're a righty, your left if you're lefty, okay? And what you do is we're going to use the fingertip, right? The tip of my finger that's supported by all of these fingers, all right? And then I'm going to put that down in there, and then I'm just going to stretch the clay, all right? I don't want to pinch it. I don't want to pinch the clay. See, it's really easy. Beginning potters will compress the clay between their fingers, like their thumb and their middle finger. And basically that will do is just kind of thin all the clay out and push it straight up. And what we want to do is we want to stretch the material out. So really we want to keep the space between our fingers consistent, okay? And all of our force that we're applying to the material is just coming through my fingertip. All right, and my fingertip is going to be braced by my accompanying adjacent fingers here, and so now I've got this kind of like claw, right? And so I want to think of that as kind of one tool that I can use to apply force. All right, now the other thing too is I want to make sure that I have a really fast wheel speed, and I want to wait for that material to stretch, right? So I don't want to just go really fast. Okay, see, look what happens when I go really fast, right? It just kind of makes this crazy wobble. All right, so actually what I want to do is I need to make sure that I wait and stretch the clay according to the relationship with the speed of the wheel. All right, and you know, your body position again is going to be really important. You want your hands together right in front of your torso here, and you want to pull it towards your body, like, all right? So here we go. So I'm just going to stretch that out, and voila.